What's up, guys? How are you? It's good to be here. It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, coming to you on a late Wednesday evening, and I hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful one. But anyway, I hope you guys are all well. Michael Mertig says the wizard in the picture has a podcast, it would seem, saying things like, take me when entering the dungeon full of evil things. Okay. Michael Dale, hello. Ms. Bella Games, good to see you. Who else is out there? Uncle Brat, hello. How are you? I hope you are all very well this fine evening. No particular agenda tonight. So Kyle had some stuff come up, and I was taking care of Mrs. the Dungeon Delver. And so I decided, rather than just ram through a stream, I would just kind of chill and decide whether or not I wanted to do it. And I decided I wanted to do it. And I'm going to tell you why, guys, because this is what I do. This is all I got. This is my thing. You know, it's like I got to go out to the subway platform and busk. open up the violin case and hope you all like classical music. But anyway, it's going, Michael. It's going. So I had kind of a funny interaction this evening. Funny, haha, I thought. I talk a lot about TTRPG Twitter because I like it. Too late for coffee, too early for bed. It's never too late for coffee, so I can throw. Dungeon Minister, hello. But anyway, so I was hanging out on TTRPG Twitter earlier this evening. And, you know, when you talk just about tabletop role-playing games, Twitter will absolutely oblige. It will come back and it will say, okay, that's what you want. That's what you got. Sometimes. Other times it's like, rah, 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 real world stuff, blah, blah, blah. This person said, and I'm like, I don't want to see that. Put that away. I don't want to see it. Derek Mann. How are you, Derek Mann? You're quite welcome, Derek Mann. But anyway, where was I? Oh, right. So, yeah, I was looking through there, and someone was asking a question. I need to talk to a reporter. I have 50 years of tabletop RPG history. I want a qualified reporter to write some information about. And so I was like, well, gosh, I can be of help here. So I direct messaged this person and I said, you should start with Paul Stormberg. He can tell you all this. And the person pings me back and says, Bill, they refer to me by name. I told Paul everything he knows. As it happens, I was talking to Rob Kuntz, which I had no idea. Like, I had no idea that was his impressum at the moment. I had no idea that was him. So I ended up talking to Rob for a few minutes. And we all agreed that it would be a good idea to get Rob on the show. So Rob will be on the show probably at some point in June. But between here and there, we've got Jeff Talanian, and we're going to have we're going to have Sandy Peterson from Chaosium, Sandy Peterson, is going to be here, and I'm looking forward to those things. So I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks. I hope Rose Estes. I'm still asking about Rose getting on, so I hope that she will still, because I told you guys she would be here, and I hope that's the case. I hope she'll be able to come on the show. But her tech support is on one coast and she's on the other, so it's kind of But we'll have to see how things proceed. But in the meantime, guys, if you haven't already, please do click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications about my live streams, whether I do them late at night and they're just kind of impromptu and I put my feet up and chill out with you guys, or whether it's going to be an interview with somebody that I think is real cool. Like, for example, last week we had on David McLeese. He talked about Project Sunflower. That was a lot of fun. Clark Whitten, hello. Great old ones, good evening. So if you haven't already done that, subscribe, click the bell icon for notifications. And if you'd like to support the show, you can support us for as little as $2 a month here on YouTube, or $1 a month over on Patreon. At the $10 level, you will get more or less monthly from me a mini first edition AD&D module. I don't mean physically small. I mean, just, it'll be 2 or 3 pages. So please consider doing that. It helps a lot, as do your super chats and super thanks and all that jazz. But you know what? I do have a lot to be thankful for, guys. And I'm just going to say this flat out. This channel, we are at 6,015 subscribers, 6,015. Now, what that means to the layperson is we have thousands, not thousands and thousands. We have thousands. That is a singular amount of thousands of subscriptions to go until we hit 10,000. Now that's a long way off. All right. I am very realistic. I don't foresee that happening for years. Okay. But when we hit that, I will organize and have an in real life convention down here in Florida. Won't be free, can't be free, but the guac will walk the earth. We will have the great underground overland gaming convention right here not right here in Central Florida. Volcano God, I miss gaming with you too. Thank you very much. I am actually trying to get a local gaming group together around here, VG. I've got Harmony Gingers in, and that's all I've got so far. I would love it if I could get 4 or 5 people in a local game. And you are never distracting, by the way. That goes right up on the screen. Thank you very much for the super. Volcano God helping keep the lights on around here in the literal sense. Don, if you claim naming rights, you're gonna you want to buy the name. That's a heck of a that's a heck of a donation. Jimmy, I am very proud of passing the 6,000 mark. I really, really am. Yes, I did get an uptick from Wizards fumbling last year. Well, and by Wizards fumbling last year, I don't mean like a specific time, right? But you know what's interesting? You guys want to know something that's really, really damn interesting? Some of my earliest videos, not controversial stuff, But some of my earliest videos, like one of the earliest videos I ever did was just talking about Keep on the Borderlands, not the deep dive we did last year or the year before. But me just talking about why I love it so much. That thing netted me so many, or I should say, has netted me so many subscribers. And the same when I talked about Lost Caverns of Sojkoth, just the short little videos when I was just there with like a webcam and my blue snowball mic sitting in the corner over there. I was shocked. I was looking at the analytics for those. They're kind of steady earners. The interview I did with Gary, that's like a few hundred subscribers at least. I'm everywhere, Dungeon Minister. I am a standard model. I am the fifth variety if you like your Philip K. Dick science fiction stories. I'm a paladin, Michael, so that's why you know. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying kind of inexpertly to say is thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you so much for subscribing, so much for hanging out, for your endless support of my channel, whether you're purchasing merch, watching the live streams, subscribing, telling friends to subscribe, and let me remind you all, I'm not the only person here, okay? Dungeon Minister has an amazing channel. Let me tell you about Dungeon Minister's channel. John Strain, good evening to you. Let me tell you about the Dungeon Minister's channel because this is important. When Dungeon Minister and I first kind of connected, I had 10 times the number of subscribers he has. In the 2 years, I now have less than 3 times the number of subscribers he has. I have 2.8 times the number of subscribers that he has. Watch Father Aaron's channel, subscribe to him. It is good stuff. There is not an iota, a speck, a molecule, a quark, an up lepton, a down lepton, a gluon of negativity on Father Aaron's channel, the Dungeon Minister. I want you all to subscribe to the Dungeon Minister's channel. Another guy to check out, he does videos rarely now because he is an exceptionally busy young man, Vile Necromancer. RPG Grandma, I think, is the closest thing to a lo-fi folk music NPR program that we've got here in TTRPG YouTube land. And if we're gonna keep the PBS comparisons going, then our own Bob Ross is of course Paint Minis Live. You got to subscribe to his channel. I insist that you check out D and Disability. Tim M. Holt is kind of finding his footing in this space. Tim's kind of got some eclectic content. Maybe he's the Nova of the small and TTRPG space. So there's all these great creators out there, guys, and do not miss their stuff. Unfortunately, my buddies over at Nerd Cognito were ejected from the YouTube space, but you can follow them. They're over on Rumble. Go set yourself up a Rumble account and subscribe to Nerd Cognito. T-shirted Historian is another great guy. Harmony Ginger. all of those channels, guys, it's not just me out here, and it's not just about me, and it's not just about feeding my ego. All right. I don't view myself like some kind of, some kind of, I've gone blank. What's his name? Howard Stern kind of like guy, that ain't me. The Dave, we were just talking about you, my friend. Just mentioned him more, hey? So yeah, let's remember that there's lots of creative people out there, and none of these people have ever hesitated to have me on their show, to ask me to do stuff for them, to promote my show. They are absolutely deserving. They're absolutely deserving. It was just a plug, the Dave. I was just talking about the great interview we had with you on. I'm not going to do ASMR and thermal bandages, so don't worry, Jimmy Invictus. I'll do some ASMR if you'd like. Excellent, Michael. Excellent. Good. I hope you did. Check out all that content. All of that excellent content. PSF is deal of the day. There you go, man. Daniel Rowan asks for the Sleeth voice. Daniel, to get more than this, I will require incentive. Perhaps you have Domars you could share. And guys, all you guys geeking up. Oh, Don, thank you. Don, this is Don's first ever super. Never done a super chat, so testing me with all patience. Miss Bella Games doesn't want ASMR. What's it worth to you? She clicks unsubscribe. No. For you, I shan't do ASMR. Well, for all you guys who like the Sleeth voice, I'm really just channeling the Vortigaunts from Half-Life 2 when I do it. And just like that. The majority of the Vortigaunt voices that you hear in Half-Life 2 came from Louis Gossett Jr., which I always thought was really, really cool. So here is a bit of trivia. If you played Half-Life 2, but you've never delved deep into like the really geeky parts, like, yeah, I played through it a couple times. It's a good game. Ian Wise, hello. It's a funny thing, Michael. It's not a new concept. It's the oldest RPG concept, and I still don't completely get it. I still don't get it. So in Half-Life 2, there is a very long section called Water Hazard, where you are given an airboat by the Resistance to take you to a hidden science lab in the suburbs of City 17 called Black Mesa East, named after the science facility where you were in Half-Life. you are pursued relentlessly by helicopter gunships. When you arrive at the final area and you're finally able to take down the gunship, if you park the airboat by a waste pipe that comes out into the reservoir that you're in, you have to very carefully do jumps to get on top of your airboat, and you can then go into the waste pipe. You go way down, and you have to take damage doing this. There is a cave, and it's full of radioactive waste, or the way there is full of radioactive waste. What's up, Doomsword? And when you get past the lake of radioactive waste in another cave, there is a Vortigaunt in the game who are friendly aliens in Half-Life 2. They are enemies in Half-Life 1, called the All-Knowing Vortigaunt. And if you stand there and tap the use key as you talk to him, or every time you hit the use key, it triggers Vortigaunt dialogue. And it will say everything that they have scripted for the Vortigaunts in the game to say, even things that you might nominally miss. And if you piece together all of the statements he makes and everything, you kind of get, hey, Jimmy Invictus, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jimmy Invictus, for the super. But you will get, from the Vortigaunt perspective, all of the Half-Life lore. And he's called the All-Knowing Vortigaunt, and it's very, very cool. So Jimmy with a $10 super. Jump on Fallout 4 and go get a saw blade launcher. It's extremely satisfying to use. I'll be giggling maniacally all night. Okay, so I really, between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis, between my last playthrough of Fallout 3 and me breaking down and purchasing Fallout 4 because it was like $14.99, I played Far Cry New Dawn, which is an expansion of Far Cry 5. Far Cry 5 has a couple of different endings, and I've talked about this before. The people who make the Far Cry games at Ubisoft, I don't like Ubisoft as a company. I think they're garbage. But the Far Cry teams have always seemed to have a pretty good handle on good gameplay. I did not play Far Cry 6. But Far Cry 4 ends a story arc that has been going since Far Cry 2. I'm sorry, Far Cry 5 ends a story arc that has basically been going since Far Cry 2, possibly even Far Cry 1. And then they just kind of rebooted it a little bit with Far Cry 6. One of the possible endings of Far Cry 5 is that there is a nuclear exchange. Far Cry New Dawn takes that as a canon ending and puts you back in the same part of the country. Different story, but it puts you back in the same part of the country in a post-apocalypse setting. These people are doing a lot better than the folks in the Fallout series. But I told you that story to tell you this one. The Michael Mertig, that's a good question. I'm gonna park that and come back to it. one of the first crafting things you can do is to build a saw blade launcher. And it is ridiculous fun. The saw blade launcher. Unfortunately, by the time you get it modded, you've got regular firearms that are just so much better than it. But there's a saw blade launcher in Far Cry New Dawn, and I can't help but wonder if the Fallout 4 guys said, we need that. Thank you, Dungeon Minister. Thank you very much. Now, I want to answer Michael Mertig's question here. Oh my, you guys have embarrassed me. This is like, I love the super chats. Thank you. So Michael Mertig asked, as someone who writes modules, the same writers work on video games. Many of them have. Many of them have. So Sandy Peterson, now he never worked for TSR, but Sandy Peterson did a great deal of work in video games. The late Janelle Jacques, just huge contribution to video games. Who else? Let me see. I'm actually going to have to look this one up. Hold on. This was Lawrence Schick, also worked in video games. Actually, I think he still works on the Elder Scrolls Online. Is Sandy creator of what concept, Michael? I'm not sure. Yeah, Ken Ralston. The cross-pollination from the early days of TTRPGs into video games is it is huge. It is huge. So there are a great many of folks who have played or who had started in tabletop RPGs. No, Sandy Peterson did not create Braunstein games. That was David Wesley in the 1960s. Don, to answer your question you asked in Discord, yes, that's fine. That is absolutely fine. So yes, the Brownstone games, which if you think about it, all of the early fantasy campaigns had colors in their names. Brownstone, Braunstein, that means brownstone. Blackmore, Greyhawk. But no, Sandy's jam, and I don't want to like overwrite the awesomeness of the interview that we're going to have with Sandy when he's on the show. I'm going to go back and see what we got for that. But this bad boy right here was Sandy's contribution to TTRPGs. This is called, you know what? I actually have Call of Cthulhu. Right there on the corner, Sandy Peterson. But we'll talk to him about that when he is on the show. It is the premier horror role-playing game. It is the premier horror role-playing game of the 1980s. And that, by the way, folks, that's not like an original. I think, let me see here. Let me see. I don't know if they still have that in stock. But if they do, how awesome would it be if I could just send you guys there to get your own? That is a reproduction of the first edition of Call of Cthulhu, the first edition box set. Do they still have it in stock? Call of Cthulhu special editions. They have rule books, leatherettes. Don't see it here. I am totally not shilling their stuff, but it's a really nice set. If I can point you guys to it. Let me see. I don't see it. I don't see it, guys. But that's okay, because there's great editions of Call of Cthulhu out there, and you should definitely check them out. You should absolutely check them out. So anyway, that was your first version of COC you ever purchased. It's a good one. It's a fine one. The first one I ever played was a 4th edition. And while this is not the first 4th edition book I ever had, this is the same one that I played. I just like 4E. I just think this book has got great vibes to it. We've done a deep dive on Call of Cthulhu, the RPG, on the show before. And every October, I should point out, I should point out every October, but I should point out that every October, we do have a 4-week Let's Play Call of Cthulhu. We have Call of Cthulhu Fridays instead of Gamma World Fridays. Brings up Chaosium. What's the deal with them hiring Merles? I don't know, but I don't like it because I'm not a fan of Mike Merle's approach to TTRPGs. I'm not. I mean, good luck to him. Good luck to him. Maybe we can ask Sandy about that, what role he'll be taking. I'm glad you liked last October's Call of Cthulhu game. I'm going to be doing something completely different this year. I mean, we'll still be playing Call of Cthulhu. It'll still be horror. But I guess I should ask you guys is, do you guys want like a modern, like Cthulhu now? Now, let me be clear. When I say modern Cthulhu, I'm talking about set 30, 35 years ago, which you might think that's a long time. Or you might think, 30, 35 years ago, what, in the 1960s? No, the late 80s, early 90s. I know, it hurts me too. Yeah, I don't. That's not a return to roots. Not to me, Dooms, but so what do you guys want? Do you guys want it's June. Yeah, no, it's May. It's almost the end of May. June is coming up. How many editions of Call of Cthulhu Rollmaster and Tunnels and Trolls do I have? I only have a playtest of Tunnels and Trolls. Not a play test, a play sample. A play sample of Tunnels and Trolls. Rollmaster, none. I mean, unless I've got a book or two sitting around in one of the sets that somebody donated to me, one of the libraries that got donated to me, because I've had 2 massive tabletop RPG libraries donated to me. But I don't think I have any Rollmaster. Call of Cthulhu, I have the facsimile of the first edition. I have the 4th edition that I just held up. I believe I have 5th edition and 6th edition. But with that said, I won't. We'll be playing Call of Cthulhu. This is literally just a question of setting. You know, I will play a 1st and 4th mishmash because that's what I primarily have the rules for. So what setting that might take? I would never do like Call of Cthulhu set in 2024. First of all, the way things are right now, a great old one strolls down the street. You know, I just walk outside and I'm like, yeah, that might as well happen. You know, it's setting it in the 1990s or even the 1980s is, you know, it's a bit more, well, I can, you know, my character can walk across the street without worrying about dying from whooping cough, right? But also there's not like, I'm going to look up we got to talk to this Chinese guy. I'm going to look up, I'm just going to pull up Google Translate and hold the phone up and let him, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that, John. That sucks. I had a 1st edition box, the black box, and I stupidly sold it off. I wish I hadn't. I always thought it was a big chonker. Like it was like the same length and width as the Call of Cthulhu box I just held up, but it was like 2 inches thick. And it came with a single tiny 6-sided die. I mean, like, I don't even know if you guys can see this, but it was smaller than that. Or it may have been the same size. And a single one. Was that like a joke that Flying Buffalo pulled on people? There's some stuff that goes on in the internet, I think, that would cause Nyarlathotep to just be like, no, I will leave. These humans are screwed up enough already. Goodbye. I don't know why I gave him a Dracula voice. I don't know. Yeah, there's actually like a Cthulhu by Gaslight. Or maybe it's Cthulhu by Gaslamp. I can't remember. Set in that time period. It's interesting, but I don't know that I could do a Victorian era call or an Edward. Wait, what time period would that be? Edwardian? Somebody help me out. 1800s, 1800s, 1900s. What is the best defense against Cthulhu? No, it's the best defense against Cthulhu is not being anywhere near it. Deliberately having a low library skill. Yeah, that doesn't really scratch an itch for me, though, Daniel. Yeah. Although, it's the weirdo illiterate loners that you run into in Call of Cthulhu who'll be like, there's things out in the woods out there, things that ought not to be. We pour the blood of the lamb on the ground to satisfy the things and keep them away from our farm. Those guys have distressingly high occult rolls. No, there is no chance of defeating. What? Oh, yeah, he was, Daniel. The best way to defeat Cthulhu, Michael, since you asked, you can. There are certain signs and sigils you can use that will repulse him. There's no delaying the inevitable. Lovecraft never came out and said this, but given the fact that you have so many eldritch beings hanging around waiting to come back to Earth, the reality is something's going to give. Something is going to give. Lovecraft looked at the world of the post First World War in the early 1920s, and I mean, Lovecraft's mindset was of a colonial times, genteel country folk, English aristocracy coming to America to make their fortunes. That was his picture of America. And when he accompanied his wife to New York City for the first time and was overwhelmed by the alienness of it, and these people who he referred to in ways that I can't say or I'll get demonetized. I mean, permanently. He had a history of insanity in his family. His father died in an insane asylum. He was looked after by two allegedly hysterical grandmothers. He himself had a nervous breakdown in his teens. It just kind of blew his mind. Now, he did start to come out of this, and I think had HPL not been destroyed by intestinal cancer, Dirty Hobby and Histories, hello, he might have revised his point of view. And that's really all I want to say about that. That's all I really only want to go down that. Jimmy Invictus says my hills have eyes voice sounds like.
I could just do this for the rest of the evening, if you'd prefer.
But anyway, no, HPL he wrote about all these things that when his mind kind of got blown by seeing the world the way it was, going into the big city for the first time, and there's this teeming mass of new immigrants pushing their way in, and he just thought the world was ending. He was just like, oh, well, might as well. There's this great scene in Trading Places when Dan Aykroyd says, if that's the state of our jails, you might as well just throw open the doors and let everyone out. It's far worse in there. Which I don't know what the point he was making was. That's the point of jail. But, there he is, a guy who's just had his mind blown and he thinks the world is not what he thought it was. So HPL had this feeling that the apocalypse was nigh, that the stars would soon be right. And in interviews with the cultists in the Call of Cthulhu, despite the fact that the game takes its name from the story, the Call of Cthulhu itself it's creepy, but it's not like, there's not per se jump scares in the Call of Cthulhu. But and that's very true, Jimmy. I was angling towards that. But so HPL was writing of a soon to come apocalypse, and he had peppered his works with Shub-Niggurath, with which I can't. We know how it's pronounced. We know why I can't say it that way. Shub-Niggurath, Cthulhu, Nyarlathotep, the Elder Things, Father Dagon, Mother Hydra, the Deep Ones themselves, on and on and on and on. When the stars are right, and the father god of their religion, Cthulhu, rises up, all of these beings that are associated with him will grow in power. And when they do, that's it for humanity. We're done. We are DONE done as far as HPL is concerned. So all you're doing when you play a Call of Cthulhu, if you burn the evil tome, if you stop the evil cult, if you blow up the cave, if you smash the idol, you're delaying the inevitable. And good, because that'll buy people just a little bit more peace. But that there is no, and then they slew Cthulhu and everything was awesome, the end. Other authors kind of took exception to that. August Derleth was probably the first of the Lovecraft circle to kind of approach this. And Derleth put almost an Old Testament style war in heaven, and that there are elder gods who are like fighting to preserve the universe. And then, of course, you had Brian Lumley, who actually had a good counterpart to Cthulhu called Cthanid, that had a mostly human daughter who would try and warn and protect people. So if you want your HPL to have a silver lining to it, you can read their works and kind of fold that into your own headcanon. Now, HPL was very sanguine about it and took the stance of nothing is true and everything is true. That if you want to write a Call of Cthulhu story where Cthulhu is banished for another 1,000 millennia, you go right ahead and do that. If you wanted to write a Call of Cthulhu story where at the end the earth was just subsumed with oceans and that was the end, you could do that as well. Yes, DC did the Arkham is between Metropolis and Gotham, just north of Boston. So yes, Arkham is DC just took HPL's works and made them their own. In fact, and this was established in Aquaman many decades ago. One of the duties of Aquaman's people is they keep an eye on the sunken city of R'lyeh and suppress Cthulhu when he tries to rise up. Good night, great old ones. Yes, 6 a.m. does come early. Yes, HPL's Dreamland stuff was very clearly influenced by Lord Dunsany, which is interesting because HPL drew inspiration from Lord Dunsany, and so did J.R.R. Tolkien. Isn't that an interesting thing? August Derleth shit. Yeah, that is a Lovecraftian name. Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath is a good book, yes, for sure. Yes, Clark Ashton Smith did a good job. I will tell you guys a funny Call of Cthulhu story. There's a so way back in 1983, my buddy Jeff lived in SoCal, and a friend invited him over for the weekend. They were teenagers. They were in their late teens, at least I think. Anyway, friend invites him over and says, hey, I've got a great Call of Cthulhu game. We're going to play this all weekend. And so, like, everybody came over on Friday. They stayed over on Saturday, stayed over Saturday night, playing this awesome Call of Cthulhu game. And when they were done playing it, they were like, hey, let's go to the movies. All right, well, what's out right now? The new Indiana Jones movie. Cool. So they go and they see Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And as they're watching, it dawns on all of them that their game master had gotten into an early preview of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, remembered it well enough to come home and write out the plot and ran that as a Call of Cthulhu campaign because none of them had seen it yet. Escaping from the Chinese gangsters, finding the Indian village, defeating the cultists, getting back the Sankara stones, the whole thing he lifted and ran as a Call of Cthulhu adventure. By the end of the weekend, they were like, oh, that was so awesome. Woohoo, that was great. That kicked ass. And then they went to the movie theater and they're like, we're going to beat the crap out of you. Because they knew how the movie was going to end. Great moments in gaming history. I wish that story was mine. I wish that story was mine. Caught the HBO show before watching gameplay here. Best starter story for Dunsany is The King of Elfland's Daughter. It is available online free. Let me find that here. Let's see. And I should be able to find that right here. The King of Elfland's Daughter. Oh, to have the whole movie spoiled, Miss Bella. Was Cloverfield tied to Call of Cthulhu? No, I mean, There have been so many movies with nods to Cthulhu stuff. That I am sure J.J. Abrams and everybody were like, yeah, Cthulhu, right? Yeah, people are going to say that. But no, the Cloverfield itself, the Cloverfield monster was not a great old one. Let's see. Let me scroll up here a bit. I don't want to have missed anything. So what HBO show did you catch before watching the gameplay here? Don says, never got into Call of Cthulhu. Like Epic Fantasy, not except that if you live, you will not be sane. I actually had many adventures surviving Call of Cthulhu character. It surprises people when I say, yeah, he was not just like one and done, like, glibbering in an insane asylum. Clint Dalton was his name. Clint Dalton. I've got his character sheet kicking around here someplace. Let me see. Let's look up old Clint. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put my hands on him immediately. I do have some Call of Cthulhu characters here. This Batman folder, by the way, is a giveaway from 7-Eleven from 1989. So this folder actually is over 30 years old, and it does in fact have a lot of various characters of old in it. I'm not seeing Clint. I'm looking for him. Thank you. I thought it was a pretty good name. Oh, yeah, Lovecraft Country. Terrible TV show. Not a good TV show. I actually have one of the earliest issues ever of The Unspeakable Oath, when you could get it as a text document from an FTP site. I'm looking. And I'm not sure how much you guys are going to be able to see or if you're even going to care, but bunch of hero system. My first ever hero system character. Okay, I can't find Clint. I'll show him to you some other time. You know what? When I find him, I'm going to put him in the Call of Cthulhu box set where he belongs. Not a problem, the Dave. Have a good one. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see Del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness. I've been told, now I haven't seen it myself, but I have been told that The Color Out of Space, starring Nicolas Cage, was actually pretty good. You guys will have to, if you're an HPL fan and you saw that, you'll have to let me know. You will have to let me know if that was, because I have not seen it. Yeah, you got to take Pacific Rim for what it is. It's literally just giant monsters fighting giant mechs. The end. I mean, that just don't read into it past that. Mad Max Fury Road is just a 120-minute car chase. Don't read into it past that. There have actually been a surprising number of HPL works made into films. And I'm not just talking about in the 1980s when Brian Yunza was making one every 12 minutes. But back in the 60s, I think Corman did at least a couple. I know he made the Dunwich Horror. Oh, RPG Exile. That sounds really cool. Let me see. I bet we can just ask the internet. List of HPL works made into films. Films based on works by H.P. Lovecraft. Okay. So we have the Necronomicon mentioned in the Evil Dead, although I've gone blank. The director of the movie said that's not HPL's Necronomicon. We have Call of Cthulhu film, a 2005 adaptation produced by Sean Branney and Andrew Lehman. We have Color Out of Space. Cast a Deadly Spell. Cast a Deadly Spell. Cthulhu 2000 film, Cthulhu 2007 film, Cthulhu Mansion, Dagon. That you got to have a strong stomach. The Dunwich Horror, which came out in 1970. The Empty Man, based on a graphic novel. H.P. Lovecraft's Dreams in the Witch House. H.P. Lovecraft in the Frozen Kingdom. Oh, no. Howard Lovecraft. No. Those are a bunch of kids' movies. Innsmouth film. I have to check that out. Necronomicon. The Resurrected, Underwater, The Whisper in Darkness, Witch Hunt, and Within the Woods. Sam Raimi, that's who I was trying to think of. Sam Raimi. So yeah, those are just a few. Those are Cthulhu mythos, and we had the Reanimator film series, Reanimator, Beyond Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator. Films based on The Shadow over Innsmouth. I already talked about that a little bit. Is it Bleeders? That just sounds nasty. It's based on The Lurking Fear. Cool Air was made into a film. The aforementioned Color Out of Space. From Beyond, which is, Gosh. The Unnameable, 1988 horror film. So, yeah, there have been quite a few. There have been quite a few. Bella says, I wonder if the Daedric princes in the Elder Scrolls were inspired by Lovecraft in some way. I would say almost certainly. I mean, it at least one of them. He's the being that produced the Ogma Infinium. Oh yeah, Jay Tyler. That's very, very true. That's very true. HPL was very generous. I will mention Cthulhu actually shows up in the Star Wars universe also. If you've ever read The Splinter of the Mind's Eye, now I knew nothing about H.P. Lovecraft when I was 10 years old. It would be a number of years before I would get into him. But there is a description in The Splinter of the Mind's Eye when they finally found the resting place of the Kyber crystal, the original Kyber crystal, not what they were doing later in the really extended universe. But when Luke and Leia find it in the Temple of Pomogena, they have Luke's observation of this carving on the wall, and it is Cthulhu. You know what, Dice Tales, yes, the Dennis Hopper HPL pastiche was the sequel to what was it? Cast a Deadly Spell. Hermanus Mora. Yeah, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Hermanus Mora. Anyway, someone was. Oh, Blair Witch, right. We were talking about Blair Witch. Blair Witch is one of those things. It seems like 75% of people I meet that talk about Blair Witch talk about how much they hated it. I love the Blair Witch Project. Everybody does. I found blah, blah, blah. Here's some last known footage, etc. And by and large, the whole VHS analog horror thing has been done to death in the last 20 years. But I really, really liked what they did with the Blair Witch Project. I thought it was phenomenal. But I didn't get a huge HPL vibe. I got more of a Demons and Devils vibe from it. Like, I don't know that this will make sense, but I got a lot more of an Amityville horror than I did Cosmic Supreme B. Like, so in as much as people mauled and groan about about Cthulhu and so on, Cthulhu, like, I'm not letting him off the hook. Cthulhu is indifferent to us. He is utterly indifferent, and so is everything else in the universe. He's not indifferent to us like you see a lizard. We have geckos here in Florida. We have these little native geckos, little brown and green guys. They're about that long. And I would never step on one. I would never go out of my way to kill one. In fact, when they wind up in the house, I'll use a cup and trap them and gently take them outside and let them go. That's like a UFO story for them. But if I go out in my yard and I see that there is an ant mound on my yard, I will wipe it out with just no. I will put diatomaceous earth on it. I will use some kind of pest control. I want them gone. I just want them removed. I want my green lawn back, and I don't want the ants to be there. I don't like them, and I don't want them. But I'm not like, I'm going to dig up each ant and I'm going to stab it with a toothpick so it hurts, and I want them gone. I am the ants Cthulhu. But I'm largely indifferent to them for the most part, unless I have to see them and then I want them gone. What is happening to the filmmakers in the Blair Witch Project? There is something initimal in those woods that is actively trying to make them suffer. Now, I'm not going to worry about spoilers on a movie that is literally almost 30 years old. Go watch it. If you want to skip ahead at some point past this, I will say spoilers over. One of the three of them wanders off at night when their camp is attacked. He runs out of the tent and disappears, and they don't know what happened to him. They find a little bundle of sticks and twine the next morning hanging from a tree, and when they untie it, it's like the girl screams and drops it. But you can very clearly see that like a couple of teeth that have obviously been torn out of a mouth are in the middle of this thing. That's not Cthulhu. Cthulhu will step on you and squash you into the ground. And yes, that's horrible. And just the fact that you can see it is mind destroying because it's miles high, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that's in the woods in the Blair Witch Project wants those children to suffer. Whether it is a ghost, just an overall malevolent being, whatever it is, it's not cosmically indifferent to them. If it was cosmically indifferent, they might wind up insane and just wandering off and starving to death and dropping. It chases them, it pursues them, and then when it gets them in the house, it kills them. Spoilers end here. I want to see The Lighthouse. I do want to see The Lighthouse. It's funny. You bring up The Exorcist dirty history. I watched The Exorcist. The Exorcist and The Shining and the Amityville Horror are the only three horror movies that still kind of make my skin crawl. Even as a 54-year-old man, The Exorcist, The Shining, and the Amityville Horror. I do not believe for a minute, and I've said this before, I do not believe for a minute that the Amityville Horror is true. The DeFeos made up that story, probably because they realized that they had too much house and they wanted to make a fast buck. And when they found out, not the DeFeos, I'm sorry, the Lutzes, when they found out, or maybe they knew about and were not fronted about that, they sat down over a couple bottles of wine and made up the story with Jay Anson. The end. And it's called the Amityville Horror to kind of get some Lovecraftian vibe going because Anson knew about the story, the Dunwich Horror. With that said, it is a horrifyingly effective movie because there's no guy with an axe, there's no guy with a chainsaw. It's not someone with a machete. You don't see like spooky sheet ghosts. It is a supremely unsettling movie in how it presents the horror that slowly overtakes the Lutz family. How it's photographed, the lighting, the sound production, very nicely done. The Exorcist, the enemy is the actual devil. And that's pretty frightening right there. The Shining has more of the sense of isolation that the Lutzes face. There is no, hey, we could just run away from this. Although eventually that's what Danny and Wendy are able to do. So with that said, Michael Mertig asks about the exit. So I guess they canceled. And this is what really took the air out of it for me. Apparently, they were working on an Exorcist cinematic universe that was going to launch with these new 3 films. But they canceled that and decided to move forward by just clean sheet. They're apparently going to do a TV series or something. But talk about killing. Talk about absolutely letting all of the air out of something. The Exorcist and The Exorcist 3. Well, The Exorcist 3 is kind of its own thing. It's got some horrifying stuff in it. But The Exorcist itself, and it ends on a kind of on a hopeful note, I just wish they hadn't leaned on Friedkin so hard. Now, funny thing, William Friedkin did a thriller based on The Wages of Fear, which was an earlier film. And the premise of the story is that there are 3 men who are at the actual literal end of their rope, and they're being offered a $5,000 bounty to drive through the rainforest in South America across treacherous terrain with truckloads of nitroglycerin. They're going to a mining or a construction site. It was dynamite or nitroglycerin, but it's obviously it's really unstable, and the conditions are terrible. It's treacherous mountain roads. Like, you're going to come around a corner, you don't even know if there's going to be road over there. There's the famous bridge scene. It's got a great soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. But the movie is called Sorcerer. The Exorcist came out, and in the initial week, Sorcerer saw a huge box office because William Friedkin's The Exorcist, a movie that had people passing out in the theater. Like, people would see The Exorcist and rush to nearby Catholic churches and beg priests to like guard them against the devil. Then Sorcerer came out, which is a suspense movie. It's a character-driven suspense movie that has nothing to do with supernatural stuff. First week it comes out, people flock to the theaters, and then it bombs. Because it's called Sorcerer. It's by the guy that directed The Exorcist. It's gonna be supernatural horror. Nope. Yeah, AT&D Undead are pretty scary. Yes, the Ninth Gate is a heck of a good one. Ninth Gate is a heck of a good one. I don't know how or why. Oh, we were talking about Lovecraft stuff. Yes, Sorcerer with Roy Scheider. Is Alejandro Rey in that too? We have Wikipedia here. Let's see here. I just feel like for some reason it is. Sorcerer film. Roy Scheider, Bruno Cremer, Francois Rabal, and Amidou. So anyway, you should check it out. It's not a horror movie. Ryan Matthews says, Interview with a Vampire is the only movie I ever had to walk out on. Was watching on the big screen, but it was so suffocating. Oh yeah, At the Mountains of Madness, or At the Mouth of Madness, or The Mouth of Madness, or whatever it is absolutely a Lovecraft bit. Although John Carpenter has said it was more of a nod to Stephen King. Sutter Kane was meant to be Stephen King, but the outcome of At the Mountains of Madness is a elder thing like horror. You know, you read the books and you go mad. I have never seen the film Interview with a Vampire. I got 50 pages into the book and was so bored I just put it down and never went back to it. The Mist, I think there's some Lovecraftian overtones in The Mist, but The Mist is really more sci-fi horror. In fact, so here we were talking about Half-Life earlier. The writers of the first Half-Life game, so in The Mist, there's a mention in the short story The Mist, there's a mention a couple of times of that military project over at Arrowhead. And Mark Laidlaw was really taken with the idea that what happens in The Mist is what basically the Black Mesa facilities causes the event in The Mist. And his suggestion, or the initial thought was, well, we'll call it we'll call it quiver, because a quiver is what you put an arrow in, and they were going to use the Quake engine, Quiver and Quake, you know? So it's kind of a double entendre, a meta double entendre. But then they sort of, they kept the idea kind of, but they went on their own way with it. I know about the ending of it, Ryan. Yeah. Phantasm are some good movies. Yeah, I mean, you really got to hand it to Don Corsicelli. Really, really, really. You want to talk about economy. Have I seen 2016 The Void? I haven't, actually. Let's see what that's all about. By the way, guys, speaking of horror movies, see if you can find, I think I found it on YouTube, but it's like 240p. So you might have to track down a DVD or pay for it somehow. 1200 AM. Do recommend. Let's see. Well, this sounds pretty good. I'm going to have to check it out. But yeah, Phantasm 2. I honestly didn't know they made it up to 5 movies. I know there was a third one, and I had heard that they had filmed the fourth one, but I don't know. But anyway, You know, I feel like I kind of feel like winding down because it's almost midnight. Last few minutes, does anybody have any questions for me? Anything at all? We've talked about horror movies, tabletop RPGs, the show a little bit. Any questions at all? And by the way, if you are a new subscriber, this is not all we get up to. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a deep dive tomorrow night. We're going to be deep diving module L3, Deep Dwarven Delve, is what we're going to be getting into tomorrow night. And I'm excited about that. If you guys have never seen Deep Dwarven Delve up close and personal, well, first of all, it is available on the Drive-Thru RPG, and you can get it print on demand. There's no reason to not have a copy. Do not pay the hundreds of dollars of unobtainium level monies. Yeah, I heard that Angus passed away. He was such a neat dude, such a neat, nice guy. I have a dress shirt that is in the tag in the shirt for size. It's because I'm a big dude. It is sized tall man. I'm going to put my dress shirt on, boy. Miss Bella Games has a question about the art section of the Discord. Yes, you can post your own art. I would prefer that it's fantasy related, but if it's not, we'll just judge on a case by basis. Just post stuff there. Just post stuff there. By all means. Thank you guys all for hanging out with us tonight. I especially want to say big thanks to Volcano God, Don McVitie, and Jimmy Invictus. Thank you all very much for your supers. Again, you guys keep the lights on around here. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, again, please do click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. And we've got more cool stuff coming. I know for my subscribers, I know I have been late in getting the modules out. They're coming. I promise you they're coming. Thank you for your patience, everyone. But I will see everyone tomorrow night when we deep dive on that Deep Dwarven Delve. And until then, watch out for the Blair Witch Owl Blairs. Good night.
Have you seen my owl bear? It's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way out horse? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in this little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing things, just take me to the show.